Thanks for staying on. Many have called for reforms in the Ghana Police Service, especially after a video recently went viral showing two officers in an altercation with each other. The IGP has instituted some measures and he's come out to announce some new modules which will be adopted in the training of new police officers. And it includes directives that all police officers should be given skills in swimming and driving. So before people pass out of training school for the police service, they should be able to drive and swim. Other things are also contained in their plans to increase or improve response time to about 10 minutes. And we're going to try and understand and unpack what all these things mean and if the targets are achievable and realistic. I've been joined by security analyst Adib Sani at the table, who will help us with our conversation. Sani, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us once again.
My pleasure always. It's good to be home.
So when you think of the police service, you want to think of the one who can actually enforce the law and maintain the order in society. How is that going to be affected by their driving or swimming skills? I'm trying to understand how driving or swimming can make a police officer better. Perhaps that's the question I'm asking.
Well, I mean, first of all, it is important to understand where the IGP is coming from. I admire his ambitions for the police service. He has great intentions. I've had discussions with him in the office for over 2 hours, and he has a lot of things he wants to do. And trust me, if he's able to achieve half of it, Ghana Police Service would be very much consistent with the best, in terms of international standards. He spoke about his intention to make promotions meritorious rather than time, because currently you can just sit at one place, do nothing. When it is 5 years or 6 years, you are due for promotion, you go for an interview, you are promoted. But no, things have to change. That would also include to what extent you've been able to deliver service to the people. So as part of the promotion arrangement, the chiefs, the community leaders will be spoken to. How is your relationship like with the police district command or the divisional command? They would even take a list of the cases people have brought before the police. They have their contacts. They would call them and find out, when you came to report this case at this police station, how was it treated? Did you get closure and all that? So I think that he has great intentions, but we need to be careful, because sometimes when you are overly ambitious, you end up achieving not much. If we are going to make the swimming component of it a requirement, we would have a serious shortfall. I mean, most Ghanaians don't know how to swim. Even in the US and other parts of the world. For example, I even asked the question and I got a reply from a friend in the US about whether it is a requirement for the police, for anyone intending to be a police officer to be able to swim. And according to her, it's not a universal requirement, even in the military. And water rescues by police are generally rare and don't require police officers to swim like lifeguards. And according to her, open water rescues are not done typically by regular patrol officers, as they aren't equipped for it. If the officers do water warden type patrol, that is a different situation. So for example, in Ghana we have the marine police, so it should be specific to what exactly you do. Nonetheless, it is important that as part of the policing training, a bit of swimming lessons should apply, because
so
you never know.
Instead of making it a requirement for a recruit to be able to swim before applying into the service, you think that it would have been better if swimming became a course,
absolutely,
or a subject in training?
Absolutely, because you never know. I mean, there are situations you chase a criminal, he would, run into the water. But of course, you also need to do a bit of an assessment, because in an attempt to catch a criminal, you don't put yourself in needless danger. okay? But it is still important that you know how to swim as a police officer.
That would have implications on infrastructure at the police training school. It means that perhaps if the recruits are not able to get access to a pool on site, they would have to be moved to another facility, which may come at an extra cost.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gradual process. This is not something we can achieve in the short term, but I think it should be on the table for more deliberation, so in the future we can see how to make that feasible. Okay, but I think swimming is important. Just that you don't have to train the officer to swim like a fish. Rather, some basic training in the swimming, I think, would suffice on that occasion.
And driving? I'm
absolutely gobsmacked that not all officers in Ghana know how to drive. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing that. I would have expected that every single police officer knows how to drive. At least, I mean, he knows how to ride a motorbike. So in case of an emergency, you have a car, a police officer can't drive. Unbelievable. I wouldn't have known until it was mentioned during the event. And I find it quite disappointing that in the 21st century, we would have police officers who don't know how to drive.
Some people joined the service very early, and some joined straight from maybe junior or senior high school, so they may not have had the opportunity to learn to drive. So are you saying, just like in the area of swimming, they should make those lessons available to the recruits whilst they are in training school?
Well, I see the driving bit more important at this moment than even the swimming. I'm fine. If it is not a requirement, but during the training process, we should be able to get them to at least know how to move a vehicle. We have what we call in-service training. I mean, for those who don't know, because you never know. You can be caught up in a sticky situation, not only in the performance of your job as a police officer, but even at the private level. As a police officer, in the middle of the night, your child is not feeling well, and you would have to, there are no vehicles, and you would have to move them to the hospital, and perhaps your wife is not around and you don't know how to drive. It's quite surprising. And we have other officers who are also assigned to VIPs. I mean, even though the VIP has a driver, what if you're caught up in a shootout situation and the driver is hurt? He wouldn't be able to drive. As a protector, so to speak, as bodyguard, you wouldn't know how to drive. That is really, I must say, an indictment on the police service. And I'm hoping that they can get as many as possible to learn how to drive.
Dr. Don Parry wants to make police training 75% practical and 25% theory. What do you make of that?
Well, practice is important. I mean, you need to understand the theory to be able to practicalize. It goes hand in hand. And in policing, one of the ways to make it effective is to build the capacity and the capability. Okay, so theory, and I'm a trainer. I lecture on security matters. I do theory. I've not been a police officer before. I've not been in the military, so I bring someone in for the practical bits. I mean, it's not far-fetched, but what they also need to do is to imbibe, to a very large extent, police civilian relationship into the whole policing agenda. We call it democratic police. There's a name for it. Okay, so at least officers would get to understand the intrinsic value of the community members. Okay, most officers feel that it is all about the use of guns. Just last week, I was training a group of some professionals, and I brought in the head coach of the national judo, and during the practical training, an issue came up. We realized that mostly police officers find solace. They find strength in their rifles or handguns. Once they are disarmed, they are not able to do anything. So with practical training, such as mixed martial arts, such as judo, it really helps. Okay, that is why it is not surprising that sometimes the slightest, opportunity, they remove their rifles, they want to shoot. And without it, a lot of them, excuse my language, are useless. So we need to teach them the practical aspect, how to be security alert, how to handle certain situations, and how to use their fist out of, certain sticky situations as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned police-civilian relations, because that is another area of focus, isn't it? To make sure that the police and the public work well together to provide the security needs that we all require. And Dr. Dampare, another thing that he also wants to do is to make a virtual police station possible. And he's saying that if it's online, people will be more willing and more able to report, because it doesn't involve actually moving to a physical site of a police station. Do you think that will work?
Well, other countries have tried it in the past. Kenya has tried it.
A virtual police station.
Yes, a virtual
so
police station. So
something is happening and you go to whatever
online
virtual platform is created,
yeah,
and then you speak to somebody?
Yes, you speak to somebody. Because the issue has always been the remoteness of the police from the people. They are right in your communities, but it seems too remote. Okay, so we want to engender that relationship based on mutual trust and respect, and that can only happen through, positive, progressive interactions. So as much as we can, we have to harness that interaction, and one of the ways is to use 21st century technology. Okay, but if I lodge a complaint and nothing is done about it, then it's
hypothetically, how would that even work? So let's assume that it's a WhatsApp platform or it's a Facebook platform. You log on and then you go to complain about something. I want to understand exactly how that would work.
Okay, there are so many ways that works. For example, lately you'd realize that if you make an attempt to reach out to customer service of the telcos, they advise that you go to their online platforms. Okay, so you can go and chat them and immediately you get replies. And now we have artificial intelligence. A lot of the problems, you might have answers to it rather than a police attendant to it. That's one. Two, there was a talk about a button in homes. So in case of an emergency, you press that button and a distress signal will be sent to the police and they would know your location and all that. Actually, something that is used in other countries, and we have even security companies who are able to install it in your home. So if anything happens, you press it, it blares out a siren outside, and it also gets in touch with law enforcement. So it is, basically all about people having unfettered access to the police using, online means.
The IGP, Dr. George Ekuffo Dampare, addressed some of his men and the media at that meeting. We have a few sights and sounds from that encounter.
Everybody's winning. And that is in such a way that even the engagement has been done in such a way that the regional commander, once in every month, you should be able to go around all your region. Divisional commander, once in every 2 weeks, you should be able to go every corner of your division. District commander, once every week, you should be able to go every corner of your district, so that the people will see us more, and if they have issues, we are there also to address them. We have also looked at the issue of engaging in terms of our media relations and in terms of sharing information. And now, if those of us who follow us in terms of our releases, you see that in respect of the time of the day, the time of the night, if incident happen, we will get the information from us in terms of what is happening. And these are all forms of engagement to bring you closer. Now let me tackle the issue of strategic, scientific, intelligent policing operations. Let me mention about 3 of the things that we've done in that angle. The first one is that we have established regional intelligence departments across all the police regions, because intelligence is everything. When you get intelligence right, the whole way is reduced in terms of any other thing that you do. And some of the intelligent people, if I tell you the things that they do, it will map well. So whenever you take some of the taxis, you will never know who is driving you. I cheat early. And whenever you take kind of car, which is not legalized, but because we are penetrating, You never know who is on it. But the point we want to make is that for your sake, we are everywhere watching and keeping the bad guys at it. The other thing,
Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, the Inspector General of Police for this country. Adib Sani, security analyst, is still in the studio with me. Adib, more work for the regional commanders,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Absolutely.
To go around every 2 weeks. We need that, don't we?
Yes, because we need to reach out to the people. I mean, I remember at the point I had certain discussions with the IGP. Immediately he took out his phone. He called the regional commander to go to the community and gather some information. Sometimes I think that helps. You know, at the very top level, you have a commander reaching out to the community members, especially when there's anger and the likelihood that what has happened could result into reprisals and all that. We need to harness that relationship with the people, because I've always stated that without the people, the police cannot do their work. Most of the intelligence they get are from the people. And even if you look at the modern day policing principles as propounded by Sir Robert Peel, who founded the Metropolitan Police in the UK and later became the British Prime Minister. He has what we call the 9 Pillar principles of modern day policing. And all of these principles are about the police's ability to win the trust and confidence of the people before they will be able to effectively police. So if you have the people who don't trust in you, who don't believe in you, it becomes a problem. For example, I've spoken with people who tell me that when they report issues to the police, they are treated like the police is doing them a favor. They need to get to the crime scene. They allegedly have to pay monies to the police officer on duty or the one to take their photographs. And they also have to organize a taxi. So if you don't have money, you can't go to the police. And there are instances when people allege that they report issues to the police and nothing is done about it. So all of these, widens the gap between the people and the police. And that is why it is important we need to build confidence. When IGP Dampare came, I mean, he came with full vim. You know, the K9 patrols, the horse patrols, and now you see a lot of police officers on motorbikes at traffic intersections and all that. And he also sent a clear signal, hey, I don't care who you are. If you do the wrong thing or you fall foul of the law, I'm going to deal with you. I'm going to squeeze you hard. And that was welcoming. And I'm hoping that it is sustained, but it is all not possible. It will not all amount to anything unless the people buy into it. And that is why it is critical that the police invest towards winning the trust and confidence of the people, not through what they say, but what they do. Because
at the end of the day, that's the bottom line, isn't it? You can give them all the training, but if they come out of school and they are not able to interact effectively with the communities that they are serving, then that's an issue. One other thing the IGP spoke about is about regional intelligence.
Yeah.
And I want to use that as a launch pad to ask about the See Something, Say Something campaign. Because we've been put on alert that there's a possibility of a terror attack happening within our territory. How is that going? Are you able to give us an idea?
Absolutely.
Of what that would
I'm
be?
sorry to say that it's been a total flop. See Something, Say Something has been a total flop. It was a great initiative. I loved it. I even thought that it should have come much more earlier. Unfortunately, guess what? We constricted it to social media infographics. We handed the whole thing over to Ministry of Information, when from the start national security could have sat with NGOs, civil societies that are active on the ground in the border communities, okay, and supported them with little resources to take the information out there to the people. And I tell you what, I'm coming from Tamale not too long ago. I think 2 weeks ago, I was there with Professor Enin and co. Go out there and ask people if they've ever heard, if See Something, Say Something. Almost everybody doesn't seem to be aware. Okay, that's number one. Number two, see something, say something is generic, is vague, is filled with ambiguity. What are you seeing? What are you looking for? A bearded man? What is it? And that is what we have failed to do, because the only thing I'm aware National Security Ministry did was to issue a statement to the effect that when you are in public, be alert. As a security person, I know what it means to be alert. How about the people out there? What do you look out for?
There was an educational drive. We had, we hosted a panel who came to talk about what it means to be aware of your surroundings and what you should look out for. For example, suspicious persons in a crowd, in a community. If you see a sudden inflow of persons you do not know before who are acting in a bit of a funny way, you need to alert the authorities. In churches, they're saying that if you have somebody coming into your church that you don't know who is acting a certain way, you need to keep an eye on that person. So there was an attempt to tell people what to look out for in the sea so that they know what to say.
To what extent has it transcended with the people? You see, the issue of terrorism is not only Accra. Look, based on my experiences, based on my research I've done, God forbid, if anything of that nature is going to happen, it would start at the northern frontier. God forbid. Okay, not Accra. So we need to, and the most shocking thing is, you go to the border towns, they don't have access to Ghana TV. And that is a serious national security issue. You go to the border towns, Ghana territory, and they don't have access to any of the TV stations in Ghana, including GTV, and they rely on French TV.
We actually have GBC commissioned a documentary a little while back on some of those issues. And we talked in that documentary about how the importance of GBC really, and the reason why all our masts across the country needs to be up and doing. Because there are people who are in Ghana who don't speak any Ghanaian language. And they do not know who Ghana's presidents, government officials, they don't know anybody about anything about Ghana. All they know is what they get from the neighboring French countries. They speak French fluently, and they don't speak any Ghanaian language.
And they watch French media, you know. So it is really a problem. So if we are committed to ensuring that the people out there know what to look out for, then we should, you know, correct all of these inefficiencies. We should reach out there to the people. There are organizations who are on the ground, WANEB, WASI, and so many others who are doing a great, you know, job on the ground. Why don't we capacitate them to be able to do more? So the locals know what is going on. Already, when you go out there, the locals, they have their security architecture. They look at you in the face and they are able to tell whether you are from this town or not. And if you are from this town, they can tell which house you are coming from. So why don't we integrate the national security bit of it to the local, so together we can collectively, improve security and prevent, you know, those inflows. Let's not forget, according to pro-mediation, a lot of these groups, they are able to withdraw into Ghana because of our closeness to the Cascade region, to regroup, to reorganize, and of course to restock and go out there to commit these crimes again. And there are some people who have cited, I mean, I have a video of an individual who was cited somewhere in the Savannah region and looks more like a scout because he was planting things into the bush with a lot of luggage. You know, obviously he's living in the bush. So we need to be careful. And intelligence is key. Mostly the intelligence, by the police is done in Accra. For example, even if you are applying for, a gun license through the Ministry of Interior, it goes to police intelligence. They have to do some backgrounds on you in Accra. Okay, if you are employing, you need to do some backgrounds. It has to be done in Accra. But at the decentralized level, it's important, because of time, because of efficiency and all that. So it is a good idea. And I'm hoping that we are able to commit to achieving that.
The IGP talked about response time to crimes, and he had a very ambitious 10-minute target. Right. Do you think that's realistic?
It's a good thing. I mean, I'm happy some of these things are coming up. And And I'm hoping we are able to achieve
so
it. But I
response
don't
time,
mean to be...
explain what that means to somebody who may not understand. Police response time means what?
Okay, as the name goes, the time the police uses from when you call them all the way to when they arrive at that scene.
He wants to reduce that to 10 minutes.
To 10 minutes. I think it is a great idea, but it will be difficult to achieve under the current scheme of things. You know why? Okay, so to be able to achieve that, it's more like a conveyor belt. Someone has to do his job before the police will be able to achieve. If the person doesn't do his job, the police cannot. One, our road network is a problem. Our addressing system, just despite Ghana Post GPS, is still a problem. Planning. Look, things are so haphazard. You see someone putting up a building on a road, you know. Sometimes you would have to cross a wall to access somebody's home. You have to cross a huge gutter, and that can only be done on foot to cross into somebody's home. Things are so haphazard, the city is so unplanned. It's difficult to tell. And generally Ghanaians too, I mean, excuse me, but that's the truth. We suck at giving directions, you know. Someone is coming to you, okay, when you get to this junction, turn right or turn left, without first of all asking, from which direction are you coming from? Okay, so we need to also learn to be able to give directions and all that. But I think that the best would have been to have a digitalized system in which everybody would buy into. When His Excellency Vice President came with the idea of, you know, street naming and house numbering and all that, I found it very exciting because it is a major security achievement. However, how many Ghanaians have that application on their phones? Or if they are asked now, tell me, if I ask you now, what's your Ghana Post GPS is?
I know it's GW because it's Ga West.
You know, no, if you ask me, I cannot tell you.
Okay.
You get me? So when I call the police, what would I tell them? Okay, now let's do
you
a
use
bit
the nearest school or the mosque or the church?
You know, that can also be challenging.
A landmark.
Because the other day I was supposed to meet someone, I think at Aposoka. He said Aposoka Methodist. But when I went into map, I realized there were a lot of Methodist facilities all around, and I wouldn't be able to tell which one he was referring to. Okay, so now let's do a bit of comparative analysis. Okay, in 2017, according to a certain research, it took the police about 10 minutes averagely in the US to respond to, you know, distress. However, according to the Department of Homeland Security, it took the police about 12.5 minutes to respond to priority 1 emergency. That is, for example, an active shooter situation. 12.5 minutes.
This was in?
This was in 2017. And according to the same Homeland Security, this is public information, by the way, viewers can check it out on Google. Law enforcement took about 18 minutes to get to the crime scene. Now, in San Diego, in 2022, it took police average 40 minutes to respond to priority 1 calls. San Diego.
40 minutes.
Yes, 2022. It's also public information. Viewers can check it out. And in countries such as, you know, other countries such as Canada, for 88% of the time, it took police 15 minutes to respond to distress calls. 15?
Yes. So it's doable.
For 88. Okay. Now,
so
now,
the
okay.
majority.
I'm coming to that. In Seattle, in 2022, it took the police about 40 minutes to respond. Let's not forget that these countries are advanced. They have the best addressing system. They have the most well-planned cities. They have the best public cooperation so far as policing is concerned. And they have the best logistics. Yet, it takes them this long. I'm not positing that it's not possible in Ghana. It is possible, But we need some other entities to be able to do their work well before we can achieve this. So the problem might not come from the police. The problem might come from AME. It might come from town and country planning. You know, so we really need to take into consideration all of these, you know, factors before we'll be able to achieve that. But like I indicated, with commitment, we can achieve.
Commitment. I'll take a bite on what you think the IGP's commitment to bringing policing to the doorsteps means for us in the wider public. You can join the conversation. Our WhatsApp number is 0555561034. And I have a few messages already, and I'm just going to try to read a few. Someone says, I know where this is coming from, because when they are retired, they live closer to the sea, especially the IGP. They should come and construct our roads at Langmania Kokrobite rather than enjoying our beach without proper road. IGP knows what I'm talking about. Another message here says, it's unfortunate that someone gave Ghana Police Service a license to open their own TV channel when there's a state broadcaster tasked to do broadcasting. I hope the state broadcaster can also get a license to start their own police service. Really, people are choosing violence. These are the thoughts of those who are sending them to us and not the thoughts of GBC. So you can also share your thoughts on this matter with us. Adib Sani, security analyst, is with us at the table. We are looking at the new models the IGP has suggested should be brought on for police recruits in the country. We've talked about responsiveness, but the IGP is also very responsive to persons who critique the police. And I want to believe that the idea is just to make the police service better. Do you think it helps any that he's that hands-on when it comes to information going out to the public or responding to issues that come up about the Ghana Police Service?
Well, as beyond being a security person, I am a professional public relations officer. I am a member of the Institute of Public Relations, and we are taught that sometimes the best way out is just to keep quiet. In certain, scenarios, the best way out of a scandalous situation is to not react to it in the first place. It does happen, okay? However, if you have to, don't get too defensive. You should strike a balance, and I'll give you an example. When the issue of data breaches and all that came concerning Facebook, which was put out there by a former employee, it was quite obvious that this is a lady who was bitter and left under, certain bitter circumstance, so to speak. But Facebook didn't go after her. No. They didn't go after what she said. No, they rather spoke about the fact that they recognize the challenges,
the glitches in the system,
and they would do the very best they can to correct them, and this is what they are doing. And that is what ended it. But if someone says something about you, which is not new, by the way, any corruption report that comes in the past decade always put the police at the top. And if you want to react to every negative story about the police in a teaser's manner, that becomes a problem. Okay, and that is where I seek to disagree with the IGP and all that. And sometimes I think it is not necessary he signs such releases. We have a public affairs directorate. They can do that on behalf of the police service. I have serious disagreements about the police being the most corrupt institution also. Maybe in terms of frequency, they might, because they are constantly in touch with the people, we have them in our communities, in the streets and all that. But it will take one transaction in a certain executive branch. It will be so huge that perhaps it will make up for a police officer receiving something for 10 years. So in terms of frequency, maybe because of, the fact that we are always interacting with them. But when it comes to huge sums, I doubt it's the police which is the most corrupt in Ghana. But I also at the same time disagree with the IGP on him bastardizing the reports. I mean, talking about the technicalities, because I have a lawyer friend of mine who tells me that, Adib, sometimes if the case is so bad that this case is indefensible, what you do is to attack the technicalities, bring in the technical
but
issues.
He did in that response or reaction, as you may call it, he did make some very salient points, and he asked some very critical questions, and it seemed like he wanted to get some answers. I know that
he spoke about the fact that the research didn't have recommendations. He spoke about why some institutions were not included and all that. Okay, no, we cannot have a perfect research.
Okay, let's get back to his plans to bring the police service up to a better level. And I want to touch finally on discipline within the police service. We're seeing police officers engaging in conduct unbecoming of officers. Are we doing enough to ensure that the discipline we want stays in the police service? I just want to assume that there is discipline there, but are we doing enough to make it stay?
Okay, well, we have the Police Intelligence and Professional Standards PIPS Bureau. Since the IGP took over, he has stopped at nothing ensuring that the right things are done. We've seen a number of videos of police officers doing the wrong things going viral. Then the next minute, you see police issue a statement to the effect that the said officer is being interdicted and all that.
But if we keep getting to police checkpoint and the first thing the police ask you for is money. This weekend, one of my colleagues and I were driving from an event, and at every stop where the police had mounted a barrier, they asked us for money directly.
But well, it is wrong. But the fact that you also don't lodge an official complaint means you are complying. When it happens that way, you need to gather evidence in any way you can, whether it is through, the phone recorder or whatever it is. You can even put it on voice record and lodge a complaint. So if we don't complain, means we are okay with it. All right, because how would the IGP know that happened? How would the police high command know it happened? So let us not condone some of these things. Let us ensure that the right thing is done. Because I know this IGP, he doesn't play. Even if it's his wife who does the wrong thing, he would go after her.
Sani, thank you so much for helping us understand what these new modules are. So we'll see how that goes at the police training school when new recruits arrive. Perhaps we'll send the camera and see if they can drive and they can swim, or if driving and swimming have been put on the timetable at the police training school. And we just want to ensure that we all do our part to keep us safe. This is Breakfast Live on GTV, brought to you in partnership with Awake Purified Water and Adunko Next Level Energy Drink. We'll be going to the cinemas with Valerie after the break.